Welcome to Trending Upwards. We're the SEO team for Digital 22, and today we're going to be talking about things to avoid and questions to ask when you're selecting an SEO agency. Just kicking us off, I thought it'd be a good idea to start talking about some of the red flags, because there's quite a few big red flags.
Well, what we're actually talking about, the thing to mention first of all is that what we're going to talk about for the next 20 minutes or so is what you should look for in your SEO agency or your SEO freelancer, and any red flags. Like Anthony said, if there's any red flags or any issues that you should watch out for. There's a lot of people doing SEO at the moment. Some are extremely good, some are extremely bad.
Yeah, there's plenty of cowboys left in the industry.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're trying to help you out with things to avoid, any questions to ask as well when you're speaking to these agencies, and hopefully help you find the right agency.
Exactly.
I definitely think in this industry, even good SEOs say it depends a lot, so it's really hard to find who's good and who's bad, because there's not a lot of set answers, is there?
Well, the key problem that we've got at the moment is there is no government standards for SEO within the UK or the US or anywhere in the world. So what that means is, you can say I'm an SEO, even though you've only done it for a week. And that's a major issue. And you get a lot of people who've very little experience, who've done maybe their own website, deciding, I can do that, and they've no real understanding of all the elements that come into SEO. For example, they may not fully understand both on-page SEO and off-page SEO. When we talk about on-page SEO, we're talking about the actual pages in the website. When we talk about off-page, we're talking about those pages that are off the website, stuff such as link building, links from social, all those types of links that give value and add value to your site.
Is it a good point to segue into, especially with link building, there generally seems to be a lot of black hat SEO tactics. When we talk about black hat as well, generally in SEO people talk about white hat, sometimes grey hat, and black hat SEO. Essentially, white hat is the ethical SEO. We're following the Google guidelines. We're doing everything by the book. Grey is somewhere in between. You might be doing some nefarious things with that, and then black hat are things that are manipulative SEO tactics, which are against Google's guidelines, that can get you in trouble. However, they might get you short-term ranking boosts. So I think a lot of SEO agencies, they'll guarantee links. They'll be purchasing links, and I think it's important, if you are new to this, to ask that company, how are you obtaining these links, and can you show me some examples of links you've built, because then you should be able to quickly tell the quality, are they bought, things like that.
It's worth noting that Google's terms and conditions stress that you should not at any time be buying links, and if you do, if you're being paid for links as well, say for example it's a blog, they should be declaring those links as paid for, in the same way that social media's gone now as well, stuff like Instagram, where they have to declare when they've got an interest, some sort of financial interest in a post or anything that's been put forward. I think the thing to remember with black hat, the key thing about it is that it's a very old tactic, and it relates to when Google wasn't as sophisticated as an algorithm. Now it's a lot more sophisticated. It's able to understand the search query and the intent of that query a lot better than it used to. And when black hat was really in its fore, and it was most popular, it was really a numbers game. The amount of links you got with the amount of anchor text was relevant to you ranking effectively. But over the last 5-10 years, particularly since they've had updates such as Panda, what we've found now is that those tactics won't work.
No.
They won't work at all.
A big factor for me is if the SEO work is outsourced, because you might have hired an agency, you see the faces and it's not actually them doing it, and then I think if someone else is doing it externally, the control's lost and they guarantee that this is ethical and it is white hat. Because if people do black hat, it can bring your website down. If you've got an e-commerce site, it could fall out of rankings and you don't sell anything for days. Like, it's a big deal, isn't it, if things are done wrong and you do get penalties. So
it's a great question to ask straight up, you know, do you outsource any work? Because they might be honest about it and just say that these are certain areas where we've got a really strong skill set in our team, and these are areas that we don't. We use, you know, we work with this agency to do certain aspects.
There is a flip side to it in the fact that there is some great SEO freelancers who do use outsourcing, but the way they outsource is very effective in the nature. They bring on board virtual assistants who are really good at what they do, and they vet those people, and the work that they're doing is great. But I think the thing to remember, I mean, some of the key things we should really be thinking about when you're getting an agency on board is, like I said, how do they work? Are they using ethical methods in order to improve your rankings? Other things as well I would look at, which is really, really important, is can they give you some idea of a return on investment?
Yeah.
I mean, any agency that's not able to give you that idea of a return on investment, I would think is that's a red flag for me, because, you know, you're just giving them money with no idea of what value it is from that. I mean, when Digital 22 do any work, we always make sure that there is either a return on investment or some idea of a return on ad spend. Because straight away that gives you the opportunity to understand what the actual value of SEO is. The big problem we've got with SEO is that it's very hard to quantify the value of it unless you've got some sort of return on investment. You can't go back to your stakeholders or your board or whatever and say we're going to spend $3,000, $5,000 on SEO because we need to. You've got to have some sort of quantification of that, you know, some sort of idea of what the return is on that. And I've always thought that it's quite a big red flag if you go to an agency and they're not able to tell you that, because it's a target that they should have as well. It should be the first target they have. Whenever we work with a client, we start to look at stuff like what are the keywords that they want to rank for, what is the possibility of them ranking for it, and what is the financial revenue value of it for them in terms of either lead gen, you know, if a lead, what's a lead worth to them, so and also in terms of e-commerce, you know, what's the product worth, the average order value, and then we can work out to some extent how successful that campaign could be. Otherwise, you know, it's a red flag to me that you've got, you know, somebody you go to an agency and they're unable to tell you the value of the work that they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the important things as well is when you're looking to hire this SEO agency, make sure you've set yourself some goals and you've got these deliverables that you want, or work with the agency to agree these goals and deliverables. Don't let them set those goals.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got to work with them. It's a two-way street, and then that enables us to go away to do the research, you know, to do the onboarding, project scoping, making sure you get good management, all these things. You know, we've heard horror stories of companies that they were only allowed to speak to their point of contact once every 3 months and things like that. So make sure you're getting you're getting good management, you're getting updates,
regular
whether
updates,
that's weekly or monthly. If you're doing PPC, you know, you get weekly updates.
I think
for SEO, it's
another horror story or red flag is if people have promised we'll get you to number one, we promise we'll get you this many links, we promise your domain authority will be up 5 places. I think we can't control Google, and if anyone's promising those sort of things, it's a lie.
Run.
Because nobody can.
If anyone says that, run.
Yeah. I mean, the thing to remember with Google is that essentially Google is a big database. It's a massive database, and what it does is it goes out and it crawls every single URL that it can get hold of and stores it in its own database. So whether that's right or wrong, Google has that information within its own database, and therefore it has the right to actually do what it wants with that information. It can chop and change it. As you see snippets in your listings. You sometimes see your listings in Google might have changed, even though they look the same in your meta descriptions, you know, in the programming code in the background. And what you tend to find is that, you know, Google can move that and change that information around inside. And it's not really, I've always told this to clients, it's a privilege to be in Google, especially ranking high in the top 3, because what that means is Google has looked at millions of pages or hundreds of thousands of pages in your same topic or area and decided that you are worth position 1 to 3 or 1 to 10. And it's really a case of making sure that what you do is, from an SEO perspective, adheres to the guidelines, because if you don't adhere to those guidelines and you start using tactics like extra links or maybe creating links from Google Docs, etc., into it, and Google what's known as Google stacking, where you've got links in Google Sheets and Google Docs all linking back to the same site. If you've got stuff like that, that's eventually going to get caught out, and you're going to have issues with it. And the other problem is you're spending money and you're not getting value really for it.
Yeah. And like Danielle was saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Obviously, it's really important to have a defined process to execute these SEO strategies. But if you're kind of signing up to, I see a lot of fixed packages that guarantee. You know, you pay for 3 months, you might pay £500 a month, £1,000 a month, you get set amount of links, you know,
a set amount of
links,
keywords.
and they'll guarantee page 1 after 3 months or you know, page 1 after 6 months, things like that. Just
I mean, that you see quite a few of these SEO companies that guarantee that they'll get 10 keywords in the top 10 within X amount of time. And from an experienced SEO perspective, that's not generally the case, and the issue you've got there is, what are those 10 keywords? Are you agreeing with them what those 10 keywords are? And are they your most valuable ones? It may be that you've only need 3 of those keywords to generate as much revenue as the other 7. So it's very much a case of sitting down with your agency, like Anthony said, sit down with your agency and actually agree the deliverables. Any good agency will sit down with you and they will spend a period of time researching and talking to you about what you want. I mean, it may be that, you know, your expectations are way too high. You know, you're not going to rank for Apple computers if you're not Apple. That's a fact. That's the way it is. So any agency that says they're going to get you ranking for a keyword that's not patently you're never going to rank for, and then there's other issues as well. You know, in terms of, you know, your business, is your business going to be successful online in terms of SEO? Does it need to look at other opportunities as well? I mean, it might be a multi-channel thing. I mean, a lot of businesses are being successful through social as well. You know, and we've got the option to do that as well at Digital 22. We can work alongside social, we can work alongside paid search, and we can also work alongside organic search, which is SEO, which means that, you know, we've got 3 possible ways of getting you, and obviously inbound as well in terms of content.
It needs to be considered, doesn't it? Because if the competitors are doing that and you're only doing SEO, I think you're missing a trick.
Well, quite often when we speak to the PPC team, they'll ask us what's performing well, what's not performing well, and then we can use PPC to help support that. It's so, and even on a more granular level within the SEO team, we've also got quite a diverse set of skills. So it's really important that when you are looking at that agency, what type of skills have they got within that team? Because if they might only be doing link building. But if the content on the page isn't right, if it's not technically sound, if Google can't crawl it, things like that, you're not going to get those positions. So you need a diverse set of skills. which you've got when you come to an agency like us, or if and it's really important that you ask those questions, what type of skill sets they've got within the team.
Exactly, yeah.
Because your website optimization is never done. When you're adding pages, it needs to be constantly monitored and tweaked.
It's not a one-off package.
No.
You just do it and that's it. It's ever evolving, isn't it?
Yeah.
We constantly take a look at the keyword maps, don't we?
Yeah.
Are these the right keywords? Are they?
There's a constant research piece as well that goes on. I mean, as part of anything we do, we will look at those keywords over a period of time, maybe over 3 months, 6 months, to see what's happening with trends. It's the proper way to work when you're doing SEO. You need to do lots of research. Essentially, it works along the process of you do the research, whether it be keyword or competitor research. Your agency should be really doing the following and telling you about the following. They should be doing keyword research, competitive research, which then leads into technical audits as well. All those three things will then decide what actual tasks need doing, and those tasks need to be implemented, and from there then you will get a really important factor that we've not really touched on yet in terms of agency reporting. The quality of reporting is essential. When we do anything Digital 22, we make sure that we have key deliverables and targets, smart targets for our clients, and those smart targets are agreed with the client, but we also cover various elements such as making sure that they're performing well in Google Search Console, making sure that everything's correct, and that there's really everything's healthy within the site. So I think reporting is also a really key element for when you're looking at an agency. If they turn around to you and say, we only give you a report at the end of every 3 months, you've got to start thinking, well, what happens in those 3 months? What do I go and tell the stakeholders? Do I tell them we'll get a report in 3 months?
If you haven't got that communication with them, it's or that point of contact,
exactly.
And you're not getting that information.
I mean, it comes back to your idea of points of contact. A good agency will have somebody there, an account manager who will speak to you, who will understand what your business is properly, who will spend time looking at that, because there's an element of that within SEO. You need to understand the business, the value of the business, and it's very important that you do that. And also it's really important that the account manager works in conjunction, obviously, with your business and with the SEOs to merge those two together and make sure that everything meets your requirements, really, and hits your deliverables.
I think as well a really important thing to look at when you're trying to pick this company is trying to get some case studies.
Exactly.
If it's like a one-off project that you're doing with this company, do they have any examples of this work? So if they're doing a web migration, what experience have you got within that team? Have you done this type of work before? And also just reviews as well for these companies. I know at the beginning you were talking about these companies just setting up willy-nilly. And sorry, they might have a lot of fake reviews. So you need to be checking those reviews. Are they legit? Do they look a bit suspicious?
I think it's worth questioning them on Google guidelines and Google updates and seeing if they know recent ones, or if they're suggesting things. What is Google guidelines on that? What's best practice? And just knowing a bit of that yourself, knowing that Google don't want rubbish on the internet. They want sites that work well, and users get what they want, so they're not disappointed.
I mean, just a quick search for in Google for Google guidelines, Google health checks will pull up the relevant information that you can work through. They're quite simple. They're not complicated in the information that they present to you, and it helps you to understand the basics of SEO, and then from there you can start to talk with your agency or whoever your possible agency is, to get a better understanding of what they really know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also if anyone wants any questions, happily reach out to us to ask your agency. Obviously we're quite a niche agency in that we only deal with HubSpot, but obviously if anyone does want to reach out and have any have a list of questions to ask your agency,
Yeah.
then we're more than happy to help out with
Or
that.
even if they've been told something, it just sounds a bit off.
Yeah.
We can.
Another good thing to ask really is, have they ever worked with a company like you? Do they still work with a company like you? I mean, there's obviously a conflict of interest if they're working with a very similar company. I mean, what you tend to find with a lot of agencies in SEO is that they almost get into a niche because they've got people on board that are really good at a specific type of SEO, whether it be recruitment or e-commerce or travel or betting or whatever your industry is. And it's really important to ask them, like Anthony said, about case studies. Do you have any information that you can give us about, and if they're a really good agency, they can even, like I said, not just give you reviews, but give you tell you about referrals that they've had, and even let you speak to existing clients.
Yeah, if you can get a reference.
If it's a good enough agency, they will not be frightened of you speaking to existing clients.
No, that's it. And the video testimonials, things like that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything like that is.
Those are all great stuff like that. And it just makes it easier for you to understand what the agency is really about and how they perform in terms of SEO.
I think one thing as well to mention is to understand the pricing or the structure of the pricing that you've got with the company and getting clarity on that, because I think we're really open, aren't we, with the way that with our points and the way they're allocated.
I'm very transparent on a seller. You can see everything that's being done, all the sheets and each month.
So we have a very transparent project management software, so you can see where our time is being spent and what we're using those points for. So essentially you'll pay a certain amount of money, you get a certain amount of points, and those points can be allocated accordingly to whether it's technical SEO, PPC, social. So just make sure that they're very clear with where that money is going and what they're spending it on. And are those points agile? Can you
exactly.
one month? Can you? There you go.
Exactly.
Can you move those points to other areas? Like if you've got something coming up, like a one-off press release or something, you might want to do some different. Use some different tactics.
That they have goals on them.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, SEO is very fluid in terms of changes. I mean, the algorithms are constantly updating. It's not like 10 years ago where they would have one big massive update and that would cover everything. Now what Google's doing and Bing as well is they're doing updates on a regular basis specific to industries as well. So that's another thing to bear in mind as well. If you're talking to an agency, do they understand any of the algorithm updates that have occurred in relation to your business? If they're a good agency, they'll be able to come back to you and say, these are the key elements that have happened in the last 12 months.
I mean, they should be talking about core web vitals at the moment, shouldn't they? And saying, have you done any work on that? Do we need to get you up to speed? And doing the appropriate checks to make sure that if they are in a good position, they continue with that because they're properly optimised, because the rules have slightly changed. So
we have another podcast and a blog post on that. So insert
the link.
Insert the link here. But if you want to learn more about that, but it's very important.
It is. It's becoming more important because what's happening as well is with Google, it's not really just about the number of links you've got or the number of pages you've got. It's about the experience that you're having, and that's what Google's trying to do now. And a good agency will be looking at SEO, but they'll also be saying to you, have you looked at your UX, your user experience? Have you looked at your conversion rate optimization, which might be all new terms to you, but they're all really important because, like I said, Google's really looking at page experience now, and what that means is that it's not just about the content, it's about the time people are spending on your website and what they're actually doing when they're there. And that's why Core Web Vitals is important, because it's part of the movement for Google towards the algorithm being more based on a page experience rather than the number of links or the number of pages you've got or the content on the page. Because searcher intent changes over time. For example, you could be searching for The Sopranos. You could be looking for the TV series, or you could be looking for a soprano. You could be looking for The Sopranos. So there's more to it than that. There's some searcher intent there, and these are important things that your agency should understand and should be able to explain to you clearly and concisely.
There's things that need to be done that aren't under the SEO umbrella that we have the dev team to do on the GDD retainers to continually work on, which is easy because we can identify them and book it in with those guys. But it's not just SEO looking at a site anymore. It takes a lot more.
When we talk about GDD, that's just an acronym for growth-driven design. And essentially that goes along the route of conversion rate optimization. Another acronym, but again, conversion rate optimization is really about looking at your pages and seeing how they're performing. Are people doing the tasks that are on those pages? Are they doing them effectively? How can we improve that? What can we do to that page? What can we change in the design?
Like their journey
and
on
that
the
drives
page,
the growth on that page.
And especially with that idea with GDD, hopefully what it means is that you don't have to have a completely new site every 5 years, a complete redesign.
Keep
it's
improving.
something that we can constantly keep making changes and improvements as you go, and then you don't have to spend 20 grand all at once on a new website.
That's true.
You're constantly improving and optimizing, aren't you, and making sure you're at the forefront of your business, aren't you? So and that's it with Google, constantly tweaking these algorithms constantly. A lot of them are rolling out constantly, and I'm sure we all lost sleep over algorithm updates back in the day. 10 years ago when Penguin drops and things like that. I had a few sleepless nights, but if you're working with an ethical SEO agency, it's doing the right thing. You're not going to have these problems. Like when there's been a Google update and we come into the office, no one's panicking, no one's stressed.
We followed the rules
because we trust what we're doing. We're adhering to the guidelines. We're doing the right things.
I mean that's really important to remember that like Anthony said, make sure that if you're not doing anything wrong, Google will not penalise you. So it's really important to look at your agency from that perspective. Make sure that they're not doing any of these what are called black hat techniques. They might not tell you the black hat. They might just say
that's the other thing. If you have an agency and everything's always good and the results are always great and they never tell you there's been a mistake or things hasn't worked, to me I'd just be like, nothing happens like that in life. There's going to be things that don't work, and we put goals on everything. If it doesn't work, we'll take it out. We won't waste money doing it another month. But if everything's peachy, I probably wouldn't believe that.
I mean, it's just like any business, isn't it? It goes up and down, and you're affected by outside elements. I mean, the perfect examples at the moment, a lot of businesses are being affected by an outside element around globally. And it's had an impact, on the way businesses work, And
Google just does change at the drop of a hat and can do an update, and are they being honest? If there is a drop, it could be down to that. Your keywords might have plummeted because they're rolling this out, but it's still ongoing, and you have to wait until it settles and see.
A good agency will not do a knee-jerk reaction to what happens to you, to your rankings, because they move up and down. They constantly move up and down. People, if you were sad enough to spend your nights watching the search listings, you would find out.
we all do.
A few times, you will find that a particular one of your, for want of a better word, money keywords, one that generates your leads, generates your e-commerce. You might find that at 12 o'clock at lunchtime, it might be at number 3, but you go and look at it at at 11 o'clock at night, it might have dropped to 6. There's some fluidity, because what Google does, and a good agency will be able to tell you this again, it's a thing, is that Google moves things up and down to test.
That's why we don't do weekly reports, because if you do, then there's a massive panic, and actually it's not that. You wouldn't react to it, so it seems like you just kind of panicking.
A good agency would be looking at not just individual keywords, but the overall visibility of all your keywords that it's tracking.
Absolutely. If they're overemphasizing keywords,
specific keywords,
it can be a red flag, because it probably means that they might be purchasing links for that anchor text to those pages. And then, like you said, they'll often hide the fact that they're buying links.
Yeah.
You know, they might call it. I've worked at previous companies where it's just been called a publishing fee, or
Yeah.
you know, you might send them goods instead. But these are all things that are against Google's guidelines.
Yeah.
You know, if you have a look at the guidelines, anything like that should be disclosed, as Adrian said at the beginning, and make these links no follow as well.
I mean,
So if the links are no follow, there's no concern. If there's been a payment, but it's excuse me.
I think
it's it's when you're buying these do follow links.
a good
to
SEO
push your
agency
rankings
should
up.
be, without blowing our trumpet too much, should be focusing on content as well.
Yeah.
Because it's content that will drive quality traffic to your
Yeah.
site, and at the end of the day, that's what you want. I mean, I've worked with clients in the past, and I've said to them, right, okay, we will do your SEO on this site. Your traffic will probably drop, but your conversions will go up.
Yeah.
And that's what it's really about. You know,
You might get
it's
less
about the
people,
quality
but they're the
traffic,
right people.
A good agency,
Yeah.
a good SEO agency will bring that traffic in. Anybody can get traffic. I can teach anybody to get traffic to a site within half an hour, you know, using various techniques and tactics, but they won't convert. And that's an important thing to remember. You know, a good agency will always be looking at conversion rate. And
We had it, didn't we, the other day with the keywords? We were looking at some of them. We were optimizing in a website, and the search volume was 10. 10 searches, but they were relevant, and we could have gone for something more generic, and it'd have brought people that just bounce off.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's pointless.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
sometimes you know it's about the agency understanding your business and knowing what your business is about. One of the key things we do as well when we're talking to clients is we actually speak to them about their offline customers as well. A good agency will speak about offline, and they'll say, you know, well, what do they ask in the office? What do they ask when they're on the phone to you? What are they looking for? What sort of questions do they ask? And those are the things that generate the content, which generates the searches online. Okay, we may not get 300 searches, we may only get 30 in a month, but they are quantified. And those are the sort of searches that we want.
And
a good
providing
agency
you're
will do
answering
that.
all those considerations in your content,
And
that's
just-
when you're going to start ranking well.
And just the customer service team, if we know people are asking the same thing, you write a blog, and then they've got the resource as well, and you're sending it to someone that's phoned up already, so they're nearly a customer. And
some of our clients, you know, the best blogs are very much FAQ type things, you know, where you know, people are asking certain questions about, you know, career changes or how we can do different things, and they're really successful. And they're bringing people to the site, they're converting, and they're also building that brand awareness as well.
Yeah, I think one thing it's worth mentioning as well, especially with SEO specifically, it's a long-term game. You know, if you are going to these agencies and they're saying they can deliver these things in 3 months, then or if your goals are too short-term, you know, you're not going to achieve them. SEO needs to be looked at alongside other areas, so you know, alongside PPC. Alongside content, social, things like that, and it needs to be a long-term strategy.
it's a good 6 to 12 months if you're just starting off, I'd say, putting new keywords on.
Absolutely.
Anything early is a bonus, it's great.
And that's definitely something that we try to re-educate with clients at the beginning of the process. If they are thinking that we can achieve these things in 3 months, is that, you know, it's not...
Just leads to frustration, doesn't it, if you don't flag it?
Yeah, and you know, they're probably going to look at black hat tactics if they're going to do anything
try and get things
anything
quickly,
quicker than that. That's it. So you know, and in the long term, it really isn't worth the risk. Especially nowadays, it's much harder to game the system. A lot of these links won't be doing anything. You'll be wasting your money. And in the long term, Google's going to catch up with you. It's far more sophisticated. You'll either get a manual action or Google will just ignore these links. So just
when we talk about manual action as well, Anthony, that's really if
another podcast. That, we've got another podcast on that as well, actually. But manual action is most people call it a Google penalty, but if you go into Search Console, you can check if your site has a manual action. You can get manual actions for various things. What I was mentioning it there for is a link penalty. So essentially, if you were doing a lot of black hat link building tactics, you can get a penalty from Google. Usually, it can affect certain areas of your site. It can penalize certain areas of your site. It can penalize the whole site. But yeah, your traffic is going to plummet. They're difficult to get rid of, and your traffic might not fully recover. So yeah, just avoid that. However, if you've got a penalty, I've done a lot of penalty removal projects. Too. So yeah, drop down below if you need any help with that. But yeah, they are difficult to get rid of. You do need a specialist. And yeah, that's something we can help with.
Yeah.
If you need to.
Does that naturally come to an end?
I think so.
Kind of, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, 10 out of 10.
I mean, the key things. I mean, for me, the key things to take away. Once again, speaking about, when you talk to your agency or your possible agency, make sure that they are able to give you some idea of what the value of what they're doing is. What the return on investment is, the return on ad spend or whatever, because that's a key element. If they understand that, they are commercially viable. If they don't understand that, there's a lot of SEO agencies out there that just think, because we can get you ranking at number 1 for these keywords, these 10 keywords, but they may have limited value, very limited value. So it's really important that that your agency understands the commercial value of what's being done.
I think one last thing that I just want to throw in as well, that's just got me thinking, is if the company's website isn't ranking either, and they're not doing the right things on their own website, then avoid them.
That's a good one.
Absolutely.
Because we put out really good blog content. We put out podcasts.
We spend a lot of time doing.
We spend a lot of time doing the right things. We're experts in our field, and hopefully we've shown that on these podcasts, in our blog content.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of reviews. We've got a lot of testimonials. We've got video testimonials. We've got case studies. Our site's well optimized. It's ranking well. It's fast, and these are things that you need to look out for as well. So if you're
got to be winning at your own game.
If you're on HubSpot, contact Digital22, and we can help you out. We're one of the largest elite HubSpot agencies in Europe.
Yeah.
Highest rated agency in Europe. So we do good work, and our reviews speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you very much for listening. If you've got any questions, obviously drop them in the comments below. Hopefully our LinkedIn profile is going to be linked here as well, and any sort of contact details. If you're looking for kind of a web project or any SEO, PPC, content, social, anything like that, we can help out with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wave, Adrian.